Captain Sarah Chen wiped the grease from her hands as she finished checking the hydraulic systems on the F-22 Raptor. The massive fighter jet towered above her in the hangar, its sleek gray surface reflecting the harsh fluorescent lights. To everyone at Langley Air Force Base, she was just another maintenance officer, someone who kept the planes running while the real pilots got all the glory. "Chen, you done with that pre-flight check yet?" called out Master Sergeant Rodriguez from across the hangar. "Colonel Martinez wants this bird ready for the 800 training exercise." Sarah nodded and made one final note on her clipboard. She had been working on aircraft for 8 years now, ever since she graduated from the Air Force Academy. Her fellow officers often joked that she knew these planes better than the pilots who flew them. They had no idea how true that statement was. What her colleagues didn't know was that Sarah had over 2,000 hours of flight time logged in civilian aircraft. She had started flying when she was 16, working weekends at a small airport in Texas to pay for lessons. By the time she joined the Air Force, she could pilot everything from single-engine Cessnas to twin-engine jets. But a medical condition, a minor heart irregularity that showed up during her flight physical, had automatically disqualified her from pilot training. The doctors assured her it was nothing serious, just a small electrical issue that wouldn't affect her daily life. But Air Force regulations were strict. No irregularities meant no flying military aircraft, no exceptions. So Sarah had accepted her fate and thrown herself into aircraft maintenance, learning every system, every bolt, every wire that kept these incredible machines in the air. She watched as Lieutenant Jake Maverick Thompson strutted across the hangar toward his F-22. At 25, he was one of the youngest pilots in the squadron and never let anyone forget it. His confidence bordered on arrogance, and he treated the maintenance crew like they were invisible. "Hey, wrench girl," Thompson called out to Sarah. "This thing better be perfect. I've got a reputation to maintain up there." Sarah bit her tongue. She had heard Thompson's radio chatter during training missions. He was skilled, sure, but reckless. He took unnecessary risks and relied too heavily on the aircraft's advanced systems instead of fundamental flying skills. If he knew that the wrench girl could probably outfly him with her eyes closed, his ego would never recover. "Aircraft is ready, sir," Sarah replied professionally. "All systems checked and cleared for flight." Thompson climbed into the cockpit without another word. Sarah watched the canopy close and stepped back as the engines spooled up. The F-22 was a masterpiece of engineering, twin Pratt and Whitney engines, producing 35,000 pounds of thrust each, stealth technology that made it nearly invisible to radar, and avionics systems that were decades ahead of anything else in the sky. As Thompson's jet taxied toward the runway, Sarah felt a familiar pang of longing. She knew every switch in that cockpit, every display, every system. She had studied the flight manuals until she could recite them from memory. During quiet nights in the hangar, she had even sat in the cockpit and run through emergency procedures, her hands moving automatically to the correct controls. "Earth to Chen," Rodriguez's voice snapped her back to reality. "Colonel wants to see you in his office." Sarah's stomach tightened. Calls to the colonel's office were never good news for enlisted personnel. She quickly secured her tools and made her way across the base to the administration building. Colonel Martinez was a veteran pilot with over 6,000 flight hours and combat experience in 3 different conflicts. His office walls were covered with photos of aircraft and commendations. Behind his desk hung a large picture of an F-15 Eagle with Martinez painted below the canopy. "Chen, sit down," the colonel said without looking up from a stack of papers. "I've been reviewing your maintenance records. Your work is exceptional, 0 defects, fastest turnaround times in the squadron, and you've caught several potential issues that could have caused serious problems." Sarah remained silent, unsure where this conversation was heading. "I also notice you have a civilian pilot's license," Martinez continued, finally looking up. "Multi-engine rated, instrument certified, that's unusual for maintenance personnel." "Yes, sir, I flew before joining the Air Force." "Why didn't you apply for pilot training?" The question Sarah had dreaded for 8 years. "Medical disqualification, sir, minor heart irregularity." Martinez nodded and made a note. "I'm putting you in for advanced avionics training. There's a new program starting next month at Edwards Air Force Base. You'd be working directly with test pilots on experimental systems." It wasn't pilot training, but it was closer to flying than Sarah had been in years. "Thank you, sir. I'd be honored." "Don't thank me yet. It's a tough program. You'll be working 18-hour days with some of the best pilots in the Air Force. They don't have patience for maintenance personnel who can't keep up. After the meeting, Sarah returned to the hangar with mixed emotions. Advanced training was an opportunity, but it was also a reminder of what she could never have. She threw herself into her work, hoping to distract her mind from thoughts of soaring through clouds and pushing aircraft to their limits. That evening, as she was finishing up paperwork, Sarah heard the familiar sound of F-22 engines approaching for landing. She glanced at her watch. Thompson's training flight was returning right on schedule. But something about the engine noise wasn't right. There was a slight irregularity in the pitch, almost imperceptible to most people but clear as day to Sarah's trained ear. She stepped outside and watched Thompson's approach. The aircraft looked normal from a distance, but Sarah could see that one engine was producing slightly less thrust than the other. The pilot was compensating well, but if the problem worsened during landing, it could be catastrophic. Sarah grabbed her radio and contacted the control tower. "Tower, this is maintenance. Raptor 4, a one may have an engine issue. Recommend priority landing and emergency crews standing by." "Maintenance tower, we show all green lights from the aircraft. What's your assessment?" "Sir, I can hear engine irregularity. Something's not right with the starboard engine." There was a pause before the tower responded. "Roger, maintenance. Emergency crews are being notified." Thompson's F-22 touched down smoothly, but as it rolled down the runway, Sarah could see her suspicions were correct. Black smoke began trailing from the right engine, and the aircraft veered slightly before Thompson brought it under control. Emergency crews swarmed the aircraft as soon as it stopped. Later investigation would reveal that a compressor blade had developed a hairline crack that would have caused catastrophic engine failure if it had gone undetected for even one more flight. Colonel Martinez found Sarah in the hangar later that night. "Good call on that engine, Chen. You may have saved Thompson's life." "Just doing my job, sir." "No, that was more than just doing your job. That was the kind of situational awareness and technical knowledge we look for in our best pilots." As the colonel walked away, Sarah returned to her work. She had no way of knowing that in just a few weeks, those very skills would put her in the cockpit of an F-22 during the most dangerous mission of her career. 3 weeks later, Sarah found herself at Edwards Air Force Base in California's Mojave Desert. The Advanced Avionics Training Program was everything Colonel Martinez had promised: intense, demanding, and exhilarating. She was one of only 12 maintenance specialists selected from across the entire Air Force. The program was run by the Air Force Test Pilot School, where experimental aircraft pushed the boundaries of what was possible in flight. Sarah worked alongside test pilots who flew prototypes worth hundreds of millions of dollars, aircraft that existed nowhere else in the world. Her instructor was Major Lisa "Phoenix" Park, a test pilot with over 3,000 hours in experimental aircraft. Phoenix had a reputation for being tough but fair, and she quickly recognized that Sarah was different from the typical maintenance personnel. "Chen, I've read your file," Phoenix said during their first meeting. "Your technical knowledge is impressive, but I'm curious about something. You understand these systems better than most pilots I know. Where did that come from?" Sarah hesitated before answering. She had learned to keep her civilian flying experience to herself, afraid that people would see it as a reminder of her failed pilot dreams. "I've always been interested in how things work, ma'am. I study the manuals in my spare time." Phoenix raised an eyebrow. "The flight manuals?" "Yes, ma'am." "Show me." Phoenix led Sarah to a simulator bay where an F-22 cockpit replica was set up for systems training. It was used to teach pilots about new avionics upgrades without risking actual aircraft. "Talk me through a cold start procedure," Phoenix ordered. Sarah settled into the pilot's seat and began flipping switches and checking displays with practiced precision. She ran through the entire startup sequence flawlessly, explaining each step and its importance. Phoenix watched with growing amazement as Sarah demonstrated knowledge that went far beyond what any maintenance specialist should possess. "Where did you really learn to do that?" Phoenix asked when Sarah finished. "I have a civilian pilot's license, ma'am, multi-engine and instrument rated." "Then why are you in maintenance instead of flying?" Sarah explained about the medical disqualification, the heart irregularity that had ended her pilot dreams before they could begin. Phoenix listened intently, asking technical questions about Sarah's civilian flying experience. "How many hours?" Phoenix asked. "Over 2,000, ma'am. Everything from aerobatic aircraft to business jets." Phoenix was quiet for a long moment. "Chen, I want you to work directly with me on the new threat detection system we're testing. It's classified work, but I think you're exactly what this project needs." The threat detection system was a revolutionary upgrade to the F-22's sensor suite. It could identify and track multiple enemy aircraft simultaneously while remaining virtually undetectable. Sarah dove into the technical specifications with enthusiasm, understanding the system's capabilities better than anyone expected. She worked 18-hour days alongside Phoenix, analyzing test data and suggesting improvements to the system's interface. Her unique perspective, understanding both the technical aspects and the practical flying challenges, made her invaluable to the project. During lunch breaks, Phoenix would quiz Sarah about flying techniques and emergency procedures. She was amazed by Sarah's depth of knowledge and natural understanding of aircraft behavior. "You know," Phoenix said one day as they reviewed test data, "there might be a way around your medical disqualification." Sarah looked up from her computer screen. "What do you mean?" "Regulations change. Technology improves. Heart irregularities that were disqualifying 20 years ago might not be issues today with modern monitoring equipment." The possibility excited Sarah, but she tried not to get her hopes up. She had accepted her role in maintenance and found satisfaction in keeping aircraft safe and operational. Their work on the threat detection system was progressing well when everything changed on a Thursday morning in October. Sarah was in the hangar running final checks on the system when alarms began blaring across the base. "All personnel report to designated emergency stations," came the announcement over the loudspeakers. "This is not a drill. Condition yellow is in effect." Sarah knew the emergency codes. Condition yellow meant potential hostile aircraft in the area. She secured her equipment and reported to the maintenance hangar as ordered. Phoenix found her there 20 minutes later, wearing her flight suit and carrying a helmet. Her face was grim. "What's happening?" Sarah asked. "We've got a situation," Phoenix said. "Unknown aircraft approached our airspace from the Pacific. They turned away when our F-22s were scrambled, but we need to maintain patrol coverage." "How many aircraft do we have operational?" "That's the problem. We only have 4 F-22s ready for flight, and we need at least 6 for proper coverage. 2 aircraft are down for scheduled maintenance, and 1 developed hydraulic problems during the morning flight." Sarah's mind immediately went to work on the maintenance issues. "I can get the hydraulic problem fixed in about 4 hours if I pull a full crew." "We don't have 4 hours. Intelligence suggests this might have been a probing mission, testing our response times and capabilities. If they come back in force, we need every aircraft we can get in the air." Phoenix paused, looking at Sarah with an expression she couldn't read. "There's something else. Lieutenant Thompson crashed his F-22 during a training exercise at Nellie's yesterday. He's alive but injured. That leaves us short another pilot even if we get all the aircraft operational." The pieces clicked together in Sarah's mind. You need someone who can fly. The brass is flying in replacement pilots, but they won't arrive for 6 hours. If we get hit before then, Phoenix trailed off. What about the civilian contractors? Some of them have military experience. Phoenix shook her head. None of them are qualified on the F-22. The aircraft is too complex and classified for anyone without specific training. They stood in silence for a moment, both thinking the same impossible thought. "Phoenix," Sarah said quietly, "what if there was someone here who understood F-22 systems better than most pilots, someone with enough flight time to handle the aircraft?" "Sarah, what are you suggesting?" "I know I'm not officially qualified, but I've spent more time studying these systems than most pilots spend flying them. I've run through every emergency procedure. I know every switch and display, and I have real flight experience in high-performance aircraft." Phoenix stared at her. "You're talking about stealing an F-22. I'm talking about defending our country." The gravity of the situation was not lost on either of them. If hostile aircraft returned and overwhelmed their limited defenses, the consequences could be catastrophic. Edwards was home to some of the most classified aircraft and technology in the world. "Even if I wanted to let you try," Phoenix said, I can't authorize an unauthorized person to fly a combat mission. Then don't authorize it, Sarah replied. If something happens and we need every aircraft in the air, I'll take responsibility for my actions. Phoenix studied Sarah's face, seeing the determination and competence that had impressed her over the past weeks. She thought about all the times Sarah had demonstrated knowledge and skills that exceeded her official qualifications. If this goes wrong, we'll both end up in Leavenworth, Phoenix said. If this goes wrong and we don't have enough aircraft to defend the base, that might be the least of our problems. The alarms continued to sound across the base as maintenance crews worked frantically to get aircraft ready for flight. In a few hours, Sarah's knowledge and hidden skills would be put to the ultimate test in a way she never could have imagined. The next 4 hours passed like a blur of controlled chaos. Sarah worked with her maintenance team to repair the hydraulic problems on the grounded F-22 while Phoenix coordinated with base command. The unknown aircraft had not returned, but intelligence reports suggested that multiple groups were moving toward the west coast. Sarah's hands moved automatically through the repair process while her mind focused on something else entirely. If she was going to fly an F-22 in combat, she needed to be completely prepared. She mentally reviewed every procedure, every system, every possible emergency scenario. "Chen, you've got that hydraulic system purring like a kitten," said Technical Sergeant Williams as he watched Sarah complete the final checks. "I've never seen anyone work that fast." Sarah nodded but didn't respond. She was thinking about weight and balance calculations, fuel consumption rates, and weapons systems she had studied but never operated in real life. "Phoenix wants to see you in the briefing room," Williams added. Sarah found Phoenix staring at a large tactical display showing aircraft positions across the western United States. Red symbols indicated potential hostile contacts, while blue symbols showed friendly forces. The picture was not encouraging. "We've got problems," Phoenix said without turning around. "Intelligence now believes this morning's probe was coordinated with similar activities near Alaska and Hawaii. It looks like someone is mapping our defensive capabilities." "Any idea who?" "Nothing confirmed, but the aircraft profiles don't match anything in our databases. That suggests either new technology or aircraft we haven't seen before." Phoenix turned to face Sarah. "The replacement pilots are delayed. Weather problems over Colorado have grounded their transport aircraft." Sarah felt her heart rate increase. "How long?" "At least another 6 hours, maybe more." They both looked at the tactical display. If hostile aircraft appeared in the next few hours, Edwards would have only 4 operational F-22s to defend against an unknown number of advanced enemy fighters. "Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." Phoenix's voice was serious. "If you had to fly a combat mission in an F-22 right now, could you do it?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Yes, ma'am, I believe I could." "Not just take off and land. I'm talking about air-to-air combat against potentially superior enemy aircraft." "I understand the risks, Phoenix, but I also understand these systems better than most people realize. I've studied combat tactics, I know the weapons systems, and I have enough flight experience to handle the aircraft itself." Phoenix nodded slowly. "There's something I haven't told you. This morning's probe wasn't random. Intelligence believes they were specifically targeting Edwards because of the classified projects here, including our threat detection system." "The system we've been working on." "Exactly. If enemy forces capture or destroy that technology, it could compromise our air defense capabilities for years to come." The weight of the situation settled on Sarah's shoulders. This wasn't just about defending an air base, it was about protecting technology that could determine the outcome of future conflicts. "What do you need me to do?" Sarah asked. Phoenix pulled up a file on her computer. "First, we need to get you officially qualified to fly. I'm recommending you for an emergency pilot certification based on your technical knowledge and civilian experience." "Is that legal?" "It's unusual, but there are provisions for emergency situations. Colonel Martinez is flying in from Langley to authorize it personally." Sarah stared at the screen. After 8 years of accepting that she would never fly military aircraft, the possibility seemed surreal. "There's a catch," Phoenix continued. The emergency certification is only valid if you can pass a practical flight test right now, today, in an F-22. A test flight. 15 minutes in the air with an instructor pilot. You need to demonstrate basic aircraft control, emergency procedures, and weapons systems operation. Sarah's mouth went dry. Who's the instructor? Me. 2 hours later, Sarah stood beside an F-22 Raptor in full flight gear. The aircraft had been loaded with training ammunition and configured for a combat patrol mission. Her hands shook slightly as she performed the pre-flight inspection, not from nervousness about the aircraft, but from the realization that her lifelong dream was about to become reality. Phoenix appeared beside her carrying 2 helmets. You ready for this? I've been ready for 8 years. Remember, this is just a check flight. We'll do some basic maneuvers, run through emergency procedures, and test your understanding of the weapon systems. Nothing fancy. Sarah nodded and began her climb into the cockpit. The seat felt exactly like the simulator, but the weight of responsibility was completely different. This was a real F-22, worth over $150 million and equipped with some of the most advanced technology in the world. Systems check. Phoenix's voice came through the radio as she settled into the backseat. Sarah ran through the startup procedure perfectly, her hands moving to the correct switches without hesitation. The engines spooled up smoothly, and all systems showed green status lights. Tower Raptor 401 requesting clearance for check flight, Sarah transmitted. Raptor 401 cleared for takeoff runway 4. Contact departure on 119.7. Sarah advanced the throttles and felt the incredible power of the twin engines pushing her back into her seat. The F-22 accelerated down the runway faster than any aircraft she had ever flown. At rotation speed, she pulled back on the stick and felt the fighter leap into the air with amazing agility. Beautiful takeoff, Phoenix said over the intercom. Take us to 15,000 feet and we'll run through some maneuvers. As they climbed, Sarah marveled at the aircraft's performance. The F-22 responded to every input instantly, like an extension of her own body. The advanced flight control systems made it feel almost effortless to fly. Level off here and show me some turns, Phoenix instructed. Sarah rolled the aircraft into a series of steep banks, feeling the G-forces press her into her seat. The F-22 carved through the air with precision she had never experienced in civilian aircraft. Excellent aircraft control. Now let's try some emergency procedures. I'm simulating a hydraulic failure. Phoenix activated a training mode that simulated various system failures. Sarah responded to each emergency quickly and correctly, drawing on her years of studying the procedures and her natural flying instincts. Outstanding. Now for the weapon systems. See if you can lock onto that drone at our 2 o'clock. Sarah looked at the tactical display and found the target. She activated the radar and selected an air-to-air missile. The targeting system acquired the drone and showed a solid lock indication. Missile locked, Sarah reported. Perfect, disengage and we'll head back to base. As they approached Edwards for landing, Sarah felt a mixture of exhilaration and sadness. The flight had been everything she had dreamed it would be, but it was also ending far too soon. Sarah, Phoenix said as they taxied back to the hangar, I've flown with a lot of pilots over the years. That was some of the best flying I've seen from someone on their first F-22 flight. The aircraft came to a stop, and Sarah began the shutdown procedure. As the engines wound down, she realized that everything in her life was about to change. Whether she was ready or not, she was now officially qualified to fly the most advanced fighter aircraft in the world. What she didn't know was that her skills would be needed much sooner than anyone expected. Sarah was still processing the reality of her successful check flight when the alarms started blaring again. She and Phoenix had just finished debriefing in the squadron-ready room when Master Sergeant Rodriguez burst through the door. Major Park, we've got multiple inbound contacts from the northwest. Control Tower wants all available aircraft airborne immediately. Phoenix grabbed the tactical display tablet and studied the incoming data. How many contacts? At least 12, possibly more. They're flying in tight formation about 200 miles out and closing fast. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. This was no longer a training exercise or theoretical emergency. Real enemy aircraft were approaching, and she might have to face them in combat. What's our status? Phoenix asked. 4 F-22s ready for immediate launch. Colonel Martinez just arrived, and he's taking command of the mission. Sarah and Phoenix rushed to the hangar where controlled chaos reigned. Maintenance crews swarmed over aircraft, loading weapons and topping off fuel tanks. Pilots ran through abbreviated pre-flight checks, while ground crews prepared for the fastest launch sequence possible. Colonel Martinez found them near Sarah's aircraft, the same F-22 she had just flown on her check ride. "Chen, I hear you passed your emergency certification," Martinez said without preamble. "How do you feel about putting it to use?" "Ready for orders, sir." "Good, because we're 5 pilots short and 12 bandits inbound." Martinez pulled up a tactical map on his tablet. "Intelligence suggests these are advanced fighters, possibly stealth technology. Our standard tactics might not work." Phoenix stepped forward. "Sir, Chen has been working on the new threat detection system. She understands its capabilities better than anyone." Martinez looked at Sarah with renewed interest. "The experimental system installed on your aircraft?" "Yes, sir. The system can track multiple stealth targets simultaneously and provide targeting data even when they're trying to jam our radar." "That could give us a significant advantage." Martinez made a quick decision. "Chen, you'll fly as Phoenix's wingman. Your primary mission is to test the threat detection system in actual combat and provide tactical data to the rest of the squadron." Sarah nodded, her training taking over despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. "Understood, sir." "Launch in 10 minutes. Good hunting." As Martinez walked away, Phoenix turned to Sarah. "You sure you're ready for this? Combat flying is different from anything you've done before." "I'm as ready as I can be," Sarah replied, surprised by how calm she felt. "Besides, someone needs to prove that the threat detection system works under real combat conditions." They climbed into their respective aircraft and began the rapid startup procedures. Sarah's hands moved automatically through the checklist while her mind focused on the mission ahead. She activated the experimental threat detection system and watched as additional displays came online around her cockpit. "Raptor Flight, this is Control," came the radio call. "You are cleared for immediate takeoff. Vector 320, climb and maintain 35,000 feet. Bandits are now 180 miles northwest and closing." Sarah advanced her throttles and felt the familiar surge of power as her F-22 accelerated down the runway. Phoenix's aircraft launched ahead of her, followed by the other 2 Raptors in the formation. As they climbed toward their assigned altitude, Sarah familiarized herself with the threat detection system's combat mode. The displays showed a clear picture of the surrounding airspace, including several contacts that wouldn't have been visible on standard radar. "Raptor 2, this is Lead," Phoenix's voice came over the radio. "How's your new toy working?" Sarah studied the displays carefully. The system was tracking multiple contacts, but something didn't look right. "Lead, I'm showing 14 contacts, not 12. 2 additional aircraft flying high cover about 50 miles behind the main formation." "Control, Raptor 2 reports 14 bandits total, including high cover elements." "Roger, Raptor 2. We confirmed 12 contacts on our scopes. Can you verify the additional targets?" Sarah double-checked her displays. The threat detection system was designed to see through stealth technology and electronic countermeasures. "Control, confirmed 14 targets. The additional contacts appear to be command and control aircraft coordinating the attack." This intelligence changed everything. If enemy command aircraft were directing the attack, taking them out could disrupt the entire formation. "Raptor Flight, new mission priority," came the updated orders from Control. "Engage the high-cover aircraft first, then proceed against the main formation." Sarah felt a surge of pride that her system was already proving its value, but that feeling was quickly replaced by the reality of what they were about to face. 14 enemy aircraft against 4 F-22s were not good odds, even with superior technology. "Bandits now 120 miles and closing," Phoenix reported. "Raptor Flight, arm weapons and prepare for engagement." Sarah selected air-to-air missiles and felt the weapon systems come online. The threat detection system automatically began calculating intercept courses and optimal engagement ranges for each target. "Lead, my system shows the bandits have their own stealth technology," Sarah reported. They're using advanced electronic countermeasures, but the threat detection system is cutting right through them. Outstanding. Can you get targeting solutions on the command aircraft? Sarah worked with the system's interface, something she understood better than any pilot in the squadron. Affirmative. I have solid locks on both command aircraft, range 95 miles and closing. Raptor 3 and 4 engage the main formation. Raptor 2, you're with me on the high-cover targets. As they closed to missile range, Sarah's threat detection system provided real-time tracking data on all 14 enemy aircraft. She could see their formations, their speeds, and even their weapon loadouts. The experimental technology was performing beyond all expectations. Raptor 2, you have first shot on the command aircraft, Phoenix ordered. Take the northern target. Sarah locked onto the designated aircraft and waited for the optimal firing solution. The threat detection system calculated wind speed, target movement, and probability of hit. When all parameters were optimal, she squeezed the trigger. Fox 3, Sarah transmitted, indicating a missile launch. The AIM-120 AMRAAM streaked away from her aircraft toward the target 85 miles away. Sarah watched the missile track on her display as Phoenix launched at the second command aircraft. Splash 1 command bird, Phoenix reported as her missile found its target. Sarah's missile was still in flight when something unexpected happened. Her threat detection system suddenly lit up with new contacts. 6 additional aircraft that had been completely hidden until her missile launch revealed their positions. Lead, we've got problems, Sarah transmitted urgently. 6 more bandits just appeared on scope. They were using some kind of advanced stealth system I haven't seen before. The situation had just gone from dangerous to desperate. 20 enemy aircraft against 4 F-22s pushed the odds far beyond acceptable limits. Control, Raptor lead. We need immediate reinforcement. We're now facing 20 bandits total. Raptor lead, no additional assets available. You are cleared to engage as needed. Sarah watched her missile strike its target while processing the tactical situation. With the experimental threat detection system, they had better situational awareness than the enemy expected, but they were still severely outnumbered. Raptor 2, can your system help us coordinate against 20 targets? Phoenix asked. Sarah was already working the problem. The threat detection system's computer could calculate optimal engagement sequences, manage multiple targets simultaneously, and even suggest tactical maneuvers. This was exactly what the system had been designed for. Affirmative lead. I can provide real-time tactical coordination for the entire flight. As the enemy formation closed to visual range, Sarah realized that her 8 years of studying these systems and dreaming of this moment had prepared her for exactly this situation. The biggest air battle in decades was about to begin, and she was going to be right in the center of it. The air battle erupted with deadly intensity as 20 enemy fighters engaged 4 F-22 Raptors in the skies over California. Sarah's threat detection system transformed what should have been an impossible fight into a carefully coordinated chess match played at supersonic speeds. Raptor flight, this is Raptor 2, Sarah transmitted while dodging an incoming missile. I'm designating targets for optimal engagement. Raptor 3, take the 2 fighters at your 11 o'clock. Raptor 4, engage the low formation climbing from the south. The experimental system calculated threat levels, missile engagement zones, and escape routes faster than any human pilot could manage. Sarah found herself naturally falling into the role of tactical coordinator while simultaneously fighting for her own survival. Good kill, Raptor 3, Phoenix reported as one of their teammates eliminated an enemy fighter. Raptor 2, I've got 3 bandits closing on your 6. Sarah pulled her F-22 into a tight climbing turn that would have been impossible in any other aircraft. The enemy missiles passed harmlessly beneath her as she used the Raptor's superior agility to evade the attack. Thanks for the heads-up lead, Sarah replied. My system shows one of those fighters has a malfunction in his missile guidance system. He's flying with reduced capability. This kind of detailed intelligence was something no pilot had ever possessed in air combat. The threat detection system could analyze enemy aircraft performance and identify weaknesses in real time. Sarah rolled inverted and dove toward the damaged enemy fighter, using her superior position and the element of surprise. Her AIM-9X missile guided perfectly to its target, eliminating another threat. Splash 2, Sarah reported. 15 bandits remaining. But the enemy pilots were learning to adapt to the American superior tactics. They began using coordinated attacks that forced the F-22s to split their attention between multiple threats simultaneously. Raptor 4 is hit, came an urgent radio call. I'm leaking fuel and my right engine is running rough. Sarah immediately analyzed the tactical situation. Raptor 4 was 40 miles from Edwards and losing fuel rapidly. If he tried to continue fighting, he would run out of fuel before reaching base. Raptor 4, disengage and return to base immediately, Phoenix ordered. We'll cover your withdrawal. Now it was 3 F-22s against 15 enemy fighters. Sarah's threat detection system worked overtime to track all the hostile aircraft and provide targeting solutions for her teammates. Lead, I'm recommending a split formation, Sarah transmitted. My system shows we can force them into a tactical error if we separate an attack from multiple directions. Negative, Raptor 2. Standard doctrine calls for staying together when outnumbered. Sarah understood the doctrine, but her system was showing possibilities that traditional tactics couldn't account for. The enemy formation had a weakness. Their command and control had been disrupted when the first 2 aircraft were shot down, and they were flying in predictable patterns. Lead, trust me on this one. The threat detection system can coordinate our attacks even when we're separated. We can hit them from 3 directions simultaneously and overwhelm their defenses. Phoenix hesitated for a moment, then made a decision that would define the outcome of the battle. Roger, Raptor 2, you're the tactical coordinator. Call the shots. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She was now directing a 3-aircraft formation against overwhelming odds, using technology that existed nowhere else in the world. Raptor 3, break left and climb to 45,000 feet. Attack the northern formation in 60 seconds. Lead, take the southern group. I'll handle the center formation alone. Raptor 2, that's 5 fighters in the center group, Phoenix protested. You can't take them all by yourself. I don't have to take them all, Sarah replied, already putting her plan into motion. I just have to survive long enough for the coordinated attack to work. Sarah pulled her F-22 into a steep climb, using the aircraft's incredible thrust-to-weight ratio to gain altitude rapidly. The threat detection system showed exactly where each enemy fighter was positioned and predicted their likely responses to her maneuver. As she reached 50,000 feet, Sarah rolled inverted and dove toward the center formation at maximum speed. The enemy fighters saw her coming and turned to engage, exactly as the system had predicted they would. Raptor flight, execute coordinated attack in 10 seconds, Sarah transmitted, while diving through 40,000 feet at nearly Mach 2. The timing had to be perfect. If the attacks weren't simultaneous, the enemy fighters would have time to respond, and the tactical advantage would be lost. 5, 4, 3, 2, execute, Sarah counted down. All 3 F-22s launched missiles simultaneously from different directions. The enemy formation, focused on Sarah's dramatic dive attack, was caught completely off guard by the coordinated assault from multiple angles. Multiple splashes, Phoenix reported with satisfaction. I count 7 enemy fighters down. Sarah's dive attack had been a decoy, drawing the enemy's attention while her teammates delivered the killing blow. But she wasn't finished yet. The remaining 8 enemy fighters were scattered and disorganized, perfect targets for individual engagement. Lead, my system shows the remaining bandits are trying to reform 30 miles west, Sarah reported while pulling out of her dive. We can catch them before they organize if we move now. The 3 F-22s raced westward at maximum speed. Sarah's threat detection system provided constant updates on enemy positions and movements, allowing them to intercept the scattered fighters before they could coordinate their defenses. What followed was a series of individual dogfights as the American pilots hunted down the remaining enemy aircraft. Sarah found herself engaged with 2 enemy fighters simultaneously, using the F-22's superior maneuverability and her own flying skills to outfight opponents in aircraft that were nearly as advanced as her own. Fox 2, Sarah transmitted as she launched her last missile at point-blank range. The enemy fighter exploded just 500 yards away, close enough that debris rattled against her aircraft's canopy. Sarah checked her systems quickly. Everything was still functioning normally. Raptor 2, that's the last of them, Phoenix reported. All bandits are down. Outstanding work coordinating the attack. As they formed up for the flight back to Edwards, Sarah realized what they had accomplished. 4 F-22s had defeated 20 advanced enemy fighters without losing a single aircraft. The threat detection system had proven itself beyond all expectations. Control Raptor flight returning to base. All bandits eliminated, no friendly losses. Outstanding work, Raptor flight. You've got a clear vector home. During the flight back to base, Sarah reflected on everything that had happened. 8 years ago, a medical disqualification had ended her dream of being a military pilot. Today, she had not only flown an F-22 in combat, but had also coordinated the most successful air engagement in modern history. Raptor 2, this is lead, Phoenix's voice interrupted her thoughts. I don't know how you did that, but that was some of the best tactical thinking I've ever seen. The threat detection system made it possible, Sarah replied modestly. I just had to trust the technology and my training. As Edwards Air Force Base came into view ahead, Sarah knew that her life had changed forever. She was no longer just a maintenance officer who dreamed of flying. She was now a combat pilot who had proven herself under the most demanding conditions possible. But the biggest changes were still ahead of her. The debriefing room at Edwards Air Force Base buzzed with excitement and disbelief. Senior officers, intelligence analysts, and engineers crowded around tactical displays showing the complete air engagement. 20 enemy aircraft destroyed with no American losses was unprecedented in modern air warfare. Sarah sat at the front of the room, still wearing her flight suit, answering technical questions about the threat detection system's performance. General Patricia Hayes, commander of Air Combat Command, had flown in personally to understand how such an overwhelming victory had been achieved. Captain Chen, General Hayes said, reviewing the mission data, according to these reports, you single-handedly coordinated the tactical engagement while simultaneously fighting multiple enemy aircraft. Is that accurate? The threat detection system provided the tactical coordination capabilities, ma'am. I just interpreted the data and communicated it to my teammates. Colonel Martinez stepped forward with a tablet computer. General, you should see the technical analysis of Chen's performance. The system logged every decision she made during combat. Her tactical choices were flawless, and her flying skills exceeded what we've seen from pilots with thousands of hours in the F-22. General Hayes studied the data with growing amazement. Captain, you've been in maintenance for 8 years. How did you develop combat skills at this level? Sarah thought carefully before answering. Ma'am, I've spent 8 years studying these aircraft and their capabilities. I know every system, every limitation, and every advantage the F-22 possesses. When combined with my civilian flying experience and the threat detection system, I was able to see tactical possibilities that weren't obvious using standard approaches. Your civilian experience includes over 2,000 flight hours, the general noted. Why weren't you in pilot training from the beginning? Medical disqualification, ma'am. A minor heart irregularity. General Hayes exchanged glances with the base medical officer, who nodded and stepped forward. General, I reviewed Captain Chen's medical records after the mission. The heart irregularity that disqualified her 8 years ago would not be disqualifying under current medical standards. Modern monitoring technology has eliminated the concerns that existed when she originally applied. Sarah felt her heart skip a beat, ironically, given the conversation topic. Are you saying I could be medically qualified now? More than qualified, the medical officer replied. Your combat performance today demonstrates that the irregularity has no impact on your ability to handle high-G maneuvers and combat stress. General Hayes made a decision that would change Sarah's life forever. Captain Chen, based on your performance today and the strategic value of the threat detection system, I'm recommending you for immediate transfer to the F-22 program. You'll receive full pilot training and be assigned as the primary test pilot for the threat detection system. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Sarah was going from maintenance officer to test pilot in a single day, based on one extraordinary combat mission. Additionally, the general continued, I'm recommending you for the Distinguished Flying Cross for your actions today. Your tactical coordination and combat flying prevented what could have been a catastrophic defeat. Phoenix stepped forward from where she had been observing the briefing. General, I'd like to request that Captain Chen be assigned to my test squadron. The threat detection system will need extensive operational testing, and she understands it better than anyone. Granted, General Hayes replied immediately. Major Park, you'll be responsible for Captain Chen's transition training and integration into the test pilot program. As the briefing broke up, Sarah found herself surrounded by officers congratulating her and asking technical questions about the threat detection system. The attention was overwhelming after years of working quietly in the background. Colonel Martinez approached her as the crowd thinned. Chen, I have to admit, when I recommended you for advanced training, I never imagined it would lead to this. Neither did I, sir. This morning I was a maintenance officer. Tonight I'm apparently a test pilot. You've earned it. What you did today will change how air combat is conducted for decades to come. Later that evening, Sarah stood alone in the hangar looking at her F-22. Maintenance crews were refueling and rearming the aircraft for tomorrow's missions. The same aircraft she had maintained as a technician was now her assigned fighter as a pilot. Phoenix found her there an hour later, having second thoughts. Just trying to process everything that's happened, Sarah replied. 24 hours ago, I thought I'd never fly military aircraft. Now I'm a combat pilot and test pilot. Any regrets about those 8 years in maintenance? Sarah considered the question carefully. No regrets. Those 8 years taught me things about these aircraft that no pilot training could have provided. Understanding how every system works, how they interact, how to troubleshoot problems, that knowledge made me a better pilot today than I could have been straight out of flight school. The threat detection system certainly proved its worth. Initial reports suggest it's the most significant advance in air combat technology since stealth. It's going to change everything, Sarah agreed. The ability to track stealth aircraft, coordinate multiple engagements, and analyze enemy capabilities in real time, it gives us advantages we've never had before. Phoenix pulled up mission data on her tablet. Speaking of advantages, did you know that your tactical coordination reduced our missile consumption by 60% compared to standard doctrine? Instead of each pilot engaging individually, the coordinated attacks allowed us to achieve maximum effect with minimum resources. Sarah looked at the data with interest. The system can do even more than that. Today we only used about 30% of its capabilities. With proper training and integration, it could coordinate entire air campaigns. That's exactly what we're going to find out. Tomorrow we start testing the system's advanced capabilities, and you're going to be the primary pilot for all of it. As they walked out of the hangar together, Sarah reflected on the incredible journey that had brought her to this moment. A medical disqualification that had seemed like the end of her dreams had instead led her down a path that made her uniquely qualified for this opportunity. Phoenix, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think today's mission would have been successful if someone else had been flying the threat detection system aircraft? Phoenix thought for a moment. Honestly, I don't think any other pilot could have done what you did today. Your combination of technical knowledge, flying skills, and tactical thinking is unique. The Air Force spent millions of dollars developing that system, but it took someone with your specific background to unlock its full potential. 6 months later, Sarah stood on the flight line at Nellis Air Force Base watching a formation of F-22s equipped with the threat detection system. She now wore the silver wings of a pilot and the patch of the elite test pilot squadron. The system she had helped develop and proven in combat was now being integrated into the entire F-22 fleet. Air Force tactical doctrine was being rewritten based on the capabilities she had demonstrated during that desperate air battle over California. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen, her promotion had come through just last week, climbed into her F-22 for another test mission. As she ran through the pre-flight checklist, she thought about all the young maintenance officers working on aircraft around the world, dreaming of something more. Her story proved that sometimes the most unlikely paths lead to the most extraordinary destinations. 8 years of studying aircraft systems and dreaming of flight had prepared her for a moment when her country needed exactly her unique combination of skills. As her F-22 lifted off into the desert sky, Sarah smiled at the irony. She had become exactly the pilot she had always dreamed of being, but in a way she never could have imagined. The heart irregularity that had ended one dream had ultimately led to the fulfillment of a much greater one. The threat detection system hummed quietly in the background as she climbed toward the test area, ready to push the boundaries of what was possible in air combat. In her hands, the system wasn't just advanced technology. It was the future of aerial warfare, and she was privileged to be the one defining how that future would unfold.